I just want to comment on Eat, Love, Migrate and Prince Ayoko's altercation that happened the other night. It was pretty disturbing to watch. I didn't watch every single video that appeared to go up on the internet. I was very surprised behind it, as well as very disappointed to see it. That's how I'll put that. But in any case, I want to share from an African American woman perspective in terms of dating a West African man or a Central African man or an East African man. I don't really know how ES and Prince and Yoko ended up in the situation they were in, but I really want to take it out of that context and talk about African men, traditions, and what they expect of their women and what they expect in their relationships, and talk about African American women and what they've been more or less accustomed to here in the United States when it comes to relationships. And I think that what we saw play out was a difference in ideology, not necessarily culturally speaking. I know that some people might look at it and say, well, culturally speaking, he's an African man, plus he's a prince, he's in northern Ghana, etc., and she's an African American woman, so they don't understand each other's cultures. I think that ES does understand various African cultures. That's number one. But I think that there was a misunderstanding between the two parties when, based on the lives or videos that went up the other night, I think it was mentioned that they had broken up, ES and Prince Ayoko, over 4 or 5 months ago, or what have you. With that being said, I think that the compound, the village that ES is building, I consider it to be like a village spot. I think it's just beautiful. I enjoy watching her build. I'm sure it's probably helpful to the compound itself. But I don't really understand why, if they clearly didn't have an understanding about the kind of relationship they were going to have moving forward, why would ES continue to build there? And the reason why that's important to me as an African American woman is that I don't really know how you can have a relationship with someone, whether you're in Africa or the United States, and then somehow have things that you build throughout the relationship, be it before, during, and then after the relationship is ended, and somehow stay in that same house or village or compound. And I'm not sure why she continued to build there under those circumstances. And I think that that's a problem. Now, I'm not here to argue whether or not he hit her, because I can't, this is not what I want to comment on. I really want to comment on the nature of the relationship that seemed to play out just a few days ago, or a day or two ago, at night at that. And how, Prince Ayoko had to, take the keys from her, and he was trying to kick her out, or he did kick her out, and they're yelling at each other back and forth, and they're doing lives and, posting these videos as videos and then taking them down, and just all the drama centered around it, which I don't know if anyone expected. But what everyone could see is that clearly there's problems in their relationship. That's it. Is some of the problems that they have not understanding African men and their traditions and their expectation of what they perceive to be their woman? Because there's no doubt in my mind that based on the energy that was spent in being upset by Prince Ayoko, he also seemed inebriated, that in fact he loves her because there were so many emotions flowing. ES2 showed a lot of emotions, but I'm just wondering, the traditions that African men have and the expectations they have for their women, could that be the difference? And that's why there was a clash? If some people out there think that, I don't know. I don't think that was the reason for the clash at all. I think that when a person decides to stay in the same house or at the same compound or at the same village after having a relationship and stay there in that same setting, you're bound to have trouble. And I think that what we actually saw play out was just that. The other thing is, I saw people saying, call the police, call the police. Well, you know, in Africa, it's not the same as in the United States. You don't just call the police, they come, take them away because the woman said this or that. It's just not the same. It's not the same. And I'm not here to talk about what rights African men have in Africa that women don't have, because that's not my beef. That's not my argument. But I am here to talk about, even if he's in Africa or if he's in America, when there is a situation where you break up, yet you stay under the same roof, and both parties believe that they have an understanding of their current relationship after being in a relationship, and then they try to move forward, you're going to find that one party didn't really understand or didn't really accept the other party doing things on their own. And this is the reason, whether you're in Africa, America, the UK, South America, it doesn't matter where you're at. You have to leave the relationship physically. Emotionally, sometimes it takes a long time, but physically, you have to remove yourself from the situation because it only causes problem. You get involved in what is called an open relationship when you do stay. That's the problem. And even if we look at Will and Jada Smith here in the United States, who openly said that they have an open relationship, they too had problems or have problems in their open relationship. In fact, I don't know many people that don't have a problem in their open relationship. And the reason being is because while both parties say that they accept the open relationship, they really don't know until it happens how they're going to react to the other party going off and doing whatever it is that they choose to do. But here's what we know for sure about open relationships. If they stay together under the same roof and one party goes off and does something and the other party is doing what they normally do, or vice versa, it will eventually cause problems, because even though people say, yes, I know, I understand, and I accept our relationship for what it is, that's truly not where their heart is. And I don't think that's being deceiving. I think that's being human. So when you have an open relationship, it's not really open, in other words. And I define an open relationship as any relationship that once had sexual interaction that no longer, or continues to have a sexual interaction with one another, with two parties, as an open relationship, and then you go out and do whatever it is that you want to do at the same time, simultaneously, whether you're currently doing it or whether you were in the past having sex with that party. It doesn't really matter. I define an open relationship as two parties that stay together under whatever their circumstances, making it a little easier to say. So that's number one. So whether you're in Africa or wherever you are in the world, people have problems executing open relationships, point blank and period. Now couple this with the fact that we have two people of African descent, one an African American female, going to live over in Ghana, northern Ghana at that, in a territory that a prince, an African prince, is a prince over that particular tribe and territory. And then the African American person is going to continue to build a compound even after their relationship has ended on that same territory. That's problematic within itself. So I think that ES is a very intelligent woman. And that's why I think I was so surprised. When I used to watch her videos, I didn't think that they were or were not in a relationship. I don't follow every single video. I really watch the videos for her building aspects, and I enjoy it. And she's like the B. Smith of northern Ghana to me. It's really fun to watch and see. So I don't really get into whether or not she's in a relationship with Prince Ayoko, but I've seen them on her YouTube. But to qualify everything, now we know that they definitely had what Prince Ayoko seems to believe was a serious relationship, and then they ended the relationship. And I'm sure she probably expressed that in one of her videos that I didn't watch or didn't see, and that's okay. I'm not here for all that. But again, let's go back to why did she continue to stay? Because when you have two parties that were in a relationship that are no longer in a relationship, and then one party wants to go outside and do their own thing, you're now entering into an open relationship. And those relationships don't usually work, no matter where you are. Then we're looking at the fact of his traditions and the fact that African American women have their own traditions, for the good or for the bad, doesn't really matter. So we don't really have a culture class. We have a misunderstanding, because I think that both are trying to meet each other's goals while ascertaining their own. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's part of the human dynamics and the human experience. But when you're in a relationship, you have to understand that even though one partner says they're okay with something, doesn't necessarily mean that they are. And there's a level of respect, regardless to whether or not they're African or they're African American, that you have to give to each party. And I think that both of them are respectful people in nature. In other words, they're naturally respectful. All I've seen them really do, and when they talk, it's respectful. Period. I'm basing it on that. But I think that if you go out and then come back, that can hurt the other party. And if the other party's hurt, they're bound to lash out in some way. We certainly don't want that way to be physical. That's not good. But what we all saw play out were two parties that clearly misunderstood each other. And I just want to say, it's not just because one party comes from a different culture and the other party comes from another culture. No, because if an African American woman is dating an African man from Ghana in America, and that same scenario played out, where she stayed with him inside the home, but they entered into an open relationship and they're no longer having sex with one another, I can assure you it's going to play out similar. The only difference is, if in America an African man puts his hands on you, then she could call the police and he could possibly go to jail. That's the only difference. That's the only, immediately upon arrival. That's the biggest difference. But in terms of the principles to it all, they both were wrong. They both were wrong for airing their dirty laundry on the internet. I can understand if they made separate videos, but sometimes when you're dealing with humans, it doesn't always work that way. And obviously we got to see that. But it's not just cultural. Respect is respect. And if you give respect, then you should expect respect, and vice versa. And what I see are two parties, regardless of their backgrounds, that may have some issues in recognizing what may be respect to one another. With this being said, we also have to point out that not only is Prince Ayoko from Ghana, but he's from northern Ghana. And so not only does he have traditions, but then, if I'm not mistaken, his tribe is also Islamic. And so we add to that Islam, which Islam also has not only the religious practices, but it also has certain traditions and expectations for women. So I don't understand whether or not, as an African American woman, if you don't know some of those traditions and expectations of a woman, regardless of whether or not you describe yourself as being in a relationship with that person or not, when a man is taking care of things and you are in his home or at his site or at his compound, at his, not your own, then there's certain things that have to be respected. And it really does not matter, again, whether you're in America or you're in Nigeria or you're in the UK. It doesn't matter. I know that a lot of people, and I would be interested in hearing others, people, in terms of their comments, feel that, oh, there's a culture clash. No. I don't see a culture clash. I see a lack of disrespect with both parties and a misunderstanding. But you're certainly, I don't know many African men from Africa that carry on in open relationships. The only thing I know that African men have in terms of an open relationship is that they may have more than one wife, whether they be Christian or Islamic. It doesn't matter. Because a lot of African countries allow African men to have more than one wife by tradition, not by religious factors. But I really saw people that really had different expectations of one another, and those expectations bumped heads. And there is a certain expectation that African men have, meaning African men in Africa have, of their women, and I'm referring to ES as being his woman only because she continued to stay at the compound. And it would be the same if you were dating an African man in America, or if you're dating an African American man and you go back to the Will and Jada's Smith relationship where it's open. It'd still be the same thing. Jada is Will's. They're together. They are married. That's it. They have each other, and they know that even though they've entered into an open relationship, they're living under the same roof per se. So I'm saying that I think that some people are looking at this from a traditional standpoint when in fact we're dealing with principles here that are not just about tradition, it's just about respecting one another's spaces. Now, certainly there were steps that they could have taken there in Africa that would have been more in line with their tradition of that particular tribe of Prince Ayoko. I get that. But outside of all of that, there's something called respect. And I am not sure what I witnessed were two people understanding one another in terms of their expectations and in terms of the respect that they should have for one another. Those are my comments. I wish that they are able to come together at the minimum, as at least as friends of some sort. And I hope that they choose not to resolve their dirty laundry on the internet anymore. Anybody that has a comment, please leave your comments and let's get the discussion started.